Happy Pride Month, everyone. Hopefully you're all doing fantastic. I watched a lot of films this month, and here are my thoughts on them. I started off the month watching Masters of the Universe. What a fantastic film to start the month off with. This film is directed by Travis Knight. I've never seen any Masters of the Universe or He-Man related projects before this one, so I had no idea what it was going into it. I knew of He-Man through the memes and the internet and whatnot, but I had no idea about any of the other characters outside of him in the Masters of the Universe world, and I really like this one. I want to start off by saying the masculinity story and how being a man doesn't always just mean big muscles and the stereotypical strength that is, traditionally thought of. But in this film, they really explored being a man is being compassionate and empathetic, as well as having the strength to do the right thing in those moments. It's the fine balance between the two. And I really enjoyed that. It's not something I thought was going to be explored in a Masters of the Universe film, but I'm really glad that it was, considering the main character is a stereotypical big buff guy, and I thought that it was really well written. The CGI, God, it was great. Even on Skeletor, who was such a great villain as well. I gotta hand it to him. Jared Leto, he played Skeletor really well, and I really hate saying that because Jared Leto I do not like as a person, and I really do not like him as an actor, but he was really good as Skeletor in this film. I think it also helped the fact that, Skeletor is not a human, and so Jared Leto was very CGI heavy, and you couldn't see his face, and they really distorted his voice, but he does a really good job with Skeletor. They paid a lot of homage to the original series from the 80s that first started the He-Man and the Masters of the Universe world, and along with the memes that came along with it, which I really appreciate as well, because growing up on the internet, I've seen a lot of those memes, so I'm familiar with them. And when they paid homage to them in the film, I was able to go, wow, they're actually doing it. They're actually putting it in the film. So that was a really fun thing that they did, and I was not expecting that either. There was quite a lot of funny innuendos as well. I wouldn't really classify this as a children's film like the original show was. This is definitely more so for the people that grew up with the show, and more so teen to adult age, I would say. There was a lot of sexual jokes that I was not expecting, and they took me by surprise. I won't spoil any of them because they are so funny for when you're not expecting them. All of the main cast was so good. They all played their roles really well. Idris Elba, especially for me, playing Man-at-Arms, I thought he did a fantastic job. As well as mentioned, Jared Leto, I hate to admit it, as I said before, but he really did do a good job. This film's very 80s, but not in a cheesy way. As I said before, it pays homage to the original show. Unfortunately, I don't think this one is going to be a big hit with the mainstream audience, which sucks because this film reminds me a lot of the Dungeons and Dragons film from a couple of years ago, which was actually really good, but unfortunately failed commercially, which is really disappointing. And I think that this film is going to suffer the same fate, which sucks because this film is a lot of fun. It knows not to take itself too seriously. As I mentioned before, the story is one that I think is incredibly relevant to today, with especially young men who are getting so easily influenced online by these horrible channels that are just warping their brain to think that they are allowed to be misogynistic. And just, I think that this story is really relevant, and I think that it helps tremendously that it's being told in a really empathetic way. I really enjoyed as well that this film did come out in Pride Month. I'm pretty sure Skeletor is very much into He-Man. Let's just say that. He made a lot of comments towards He-Man that were definitely leading me to believe that he wanted He-Man. That's all I'm going to say. Definitely give this one a watch. I cannot praise it enough. It was a fantastic film to start off Pride Month with as well. After that, I watched Black Swan. I have never ever seen this film before. I've heard so much about it. Being a professional ballet dancer myself, everyone was telling me for so many years, you got to watch it. You got to watch it. Please watch it. You'll love it. And I really did. I'm really surprised I didn't watch it sooner. I watched this one with my partner. We're doing a wheel spin of films, and she suggested this one. I guess I was a bit worried because being a dancer myself, I know what the world entails, but man, this film understands the dance world to a scary degree. Natalie Portman as well. I can see why she won the Academy Award. She is phenomenal in this film. You can just tell that she spent, I would assume, possibly years training for this role, because you can tell in the scenes where her character is dancing, it is actually her doing those moves and dancing, and it is so well done. This is a Darren Aronofsky. This is a Darren Aronofsky film. I believe that's how you Jesus Christ, I can't say his name. This is a Darren Aronofsky film. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. I don't know. I don't care anymore. I've pronounced his name so many different times now that you're just going to get this one. But I've seen a couple of his films prior. I've seen The Whale, and I've seen most recently Caught Stealing, which I actually really liked. But I think this one is my favorite now, especially with my connection to the dance world. And as mentioned before, it is scarily accurate how dark and how sinister and how real it was. It blew me away. I was so locked in the whole time watching it. Loved the symbolism and themes of the film, and how each character in Nina's life represents a character from Swan Lake, the ballet. I thought that was fantastic, and I imagine that maybe not many people would pick up on that, especially if you're not familiar with the ballet itself. But I really appreciated that little subtle thing that Darren added to the script. I thought as well that Darren did a fantastic job of capturing the pursuit of perfection and how that can make people go insane. It was done in such a way that I unfortunately have seen it happen to people in real life. Maybe not to the extent that it happens in the film, because geez, there was a lot of moments I had flashbacks almost to my career as a professional ballet dancer, and saw people that I've worked with and gone, wow, you know, that it really affected me in that way. I know I keep saying it, but it's true. It really captures the dance world in such a visceral and real way that it is the first film I've seen that really showcases the dance world for what it is. Something I noticed as well about this film that I really appreciated was the film acts actually mirror the acts of the ballet. That's something I don't imagine many people will pick up on at all, but it is really cool, especially how Nina starts off the film as the White Swan, similar to the ballet. She's very sweet and innocent. The second act is when she starts to transition into the Black Swan, which in the ballet is when the Black Swan is introduced. And then the third act is when the Black Swan has manipulated the White Swan and forced herself to jump to her demise, to put it lightly. And that mirrors Nina's arc in the film. And I really appreciated that, especially the final scene of Nina saying that she's hit perfection, but at the pursuit of her own, well, I guess demise really is the best way of putting it. It is just such a fantastic piece of cinema, really. It is. I can't speak more highly of it. There's so many cool camera moments with this film, like the way that Darren uses mirrors as well to mask people, and I cannot explain it. I can't explain it enough. Like, I know it sounds like I'm rambling, but it's just so clever. It is something I really appreciated, and I could not recommend it enough. Please go see it. Oh, as well, just quickly before we move on, my lord, I'm pretty good with horror for the most part, but the body horror stuff in this made me squint at times. It doesn't shy away at all. I know obviously it was in Nina's mind, because this is a psychological horror film as well, but it is so full on that it did make me squint. I guess it really affected me in that way as well. I cannot talk highly enough about this film. It sounds like I'm rambling, as I said before, but it is really worth a watch. After that, I saw Disclosure Day. I saw this opening night with a friend. Not many people there, unfortunately, which sucks because it is a Steven Spielberg film. I really liked this one. I still think that Steven Spielberg has got it. I think that Emily Blunt has done a fantastic job with this film. Her performance is probably, for me, the best that she's done this decade, other than Oppenheimer. I think John Williams' soundtrack is fucking awesome for this film. He's still got it as well. I love John Williams' music. The story for me was incredibly engaging. I really liked as well how it made me question what I would do in this situation. It also tackles what I think is a very impossible subject, and I think it handles it really well. It also brings up a lot of questions as to what people would do if they were put in this situation, especially with religious stuff. I do wish it sort of touched on the religious stuff a bit more. I don't want to spoil it going into it, because I think that knowing nothing about what this film is actually the way to go. I think the marketing sort of did it a bit of a disservice. So if you haven't seen the trailer for this one and are interested, definitely do not watch the trailer. I can see people being very confused by this film, however, as it explains just enough for the audience to understand it, but not enough to outright tell you what the things are doing there. I don't want to spoil it. I really, as I said before, I think the marketing has done such a disservice to this film, and I do believe that going into it knowing nothing is the way to go. Unfortunately for me, a negative with this film was the CGI, particularly the animals. I thought that when they appeared on screen, they tried to make them look as realistic as possible, but didn't. And I could tell straight away that they were CGI. So I was taken out of the film when they appeared, which is unfortunate because those animals do play an integral role to the film. However, the classified footage stuff that they did was really, really well done. And so it just made me dislike the CGI animals even more, because if they can pull off the classified footage stuff and make it look realistic, it made me think, why couldn't the animals look better? So that was a bit unfortunate. Oh, just quickly as well, Colman Domingo, as always, fantastic. That's something I wrote as the last thing in my notes. It's Colman Domingo. He always does such a fantastic job for me. After that, I watched Scary Movie.
Not her! My pronouns are they, them.
After that, I watched Tuna. Holy shit, this was a really good film. I was not expecting anything from this film, but I was absolutely in love with it by the end of it. I think it is probably one of the best films I've seen this year. And for me, it's probably one of the best crime thrillers I've seen my whole life. Leo Woodall does such a fantastic job of bringing a very grounded and realistic take to the character he's playing. I thought the script was incredibly strong as well that was given to the actors. It made sense. There was never any lines that made me think, whoa, people wouldn't say that. And it was delivered from every actor in such a believable way for me. I really enjoyed the story as well, and the use of Leo Woodall's character's hearing condition was done in a way that I could totally see that working in the real world. I'm not sure if it's actually accurate to anything, but it made me believe that maybe someone with this hearing condition could actually do, what happens in the film. I really believed it. I thought it was fantastic in that regard. I really, really loved it. As I mentioned before, this is a very realistic crime thriller. The violence for me was earned and wasn't at all overused. If you go into this one expecting a big action film like Jason Statham or The Rock film, you're probably going to be a little disappointed. But the violence was earned for me, I think, in my opinion. It really was. It's very real, and I could totally see that's how it would actually be in real life. I'm looking at my notes here, and a big positive that I've written in all caps is soundtrack. It is really good. I really loved this soundtrack. Not only the licensed music, the jazz music that was used, but also the original score. Whoever did the music for this film should be getting a lot more attention. And to be honest, I think this film should be getting a lot more attention than probably what it is getting, because it is an outstanding piece of media. Dustin Hoffman is also a very small but impactful role as well. It's always a pleasure seeing him on the screen. And I really appreciated how this film was edited. It reminded me a lot of how Edgar Wright wants his films edited. And as mentioned before, this is probably one of the best films I've seen this year. I really, really enjoyed it. After that, I saw Toy Story 5. I was a bit nervous about this one, especially after Toy Story 4. But after seeing it now, I can happily say that this film is what Toy Story 4 should have been. And I truly believe that making Jessie and Bullseye the main characters was the right choice. The big marketing tactic for this film was the toys take on technology. And I wasn't sure how they were going to handle that, especially because it is Disney. They don't want to offend people. But I believe that Pixar truly tackled this in the best way that they could. The messages and themes for this film, particularly surrounding technology, was that children can't connect properly with one another through technology. They need that face-to-face time to be able to interact with one another and learn those social skills. But Pixar aren't stupid. They also understand that technology is going to be around us forever, and we are living in a world that is run by technology. So using technology in a safe way, not all the time, can be a very good thing. And that is what they are saying in the film. I also loved how they brought up a couple of times, actually, Jesse did, that technology makes kids age faster. And when Jesse said that in the film, I couldn't agree more. I'm someone that has worked with early teenagers over the years. My current job is working with special ed students, and I cannot agree more. It is such a real issue that if technology is gone unchecked for a large amount of time, it does age kids quite quickly. I remember when I was 12, 13, I was still, I guess, age appropriate, in my opinion, for the time. I was still playing Pokemon. I was still playing with toys. I was still building Lego. A lot of kids now don't do that. And I'm glad that this film brought that up because I think it is very relevant and I really appreciated that. Loved hearing the themes from Toy Story 1 and 2 in this film. Oh my God. It just made me smile. Call it nostalgia bait, but it worked. It worked on me if it was. It felt warranted. It felt earned, but oh man, it just made me smile. All right. It just made me smile. Let me have this. A lot of people bring up a positive for Toy Story 4 being that the animation quality is superb, and it is. That is a big positive for me with Toy Story 4. But I don't want to discredit this one at all, especially the opening scene of the film. It's on a deserted island, and man, the sand texture, and you can see that the single grains of sand are there in comparison to some of the older Pixar films. My God. I know, as I said before, Toy Story 4's animation is superb, but don't knock this one at all. The animation is outstanding, as always. It is Pixar, so what do you expect? Oh my God, they fixed Buzz. They fixed Buzz. He was not at all Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story 4, but they actually gave him himself back. He's back to his normal self, and that is something I loved, because Toy Story 1, 2, and 3, Buzz has this continuous arc, and then it's just completely dropped in Toy Story 4. That was a massive negative for me with 4, was how Buzz is just treated like a joke. Yes, he says funny stuff because it is Buzz Lightyear at the end of the day, but he is back to being his normal Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 self, and I really love that. I thought Conan O'Brien's character, Smarty Pants, such a good addition. And speaking of which, that is something as well that I also liked. I thought all of the new characters brought into the film are integral to the plot. That is an issue I also have with 4. There was too many new characters that they introduced in number 4, and not all of them felt like they earned a spot in that plot. However, though, in Toy Story 5, there's only a handful of new characters, and each one of them had something to do and helped move the plot along, and that is something I really liked in this one. Not a big Taylor Swift fan, I can't lie. But I gotta say, her doing the end credit song, fantastic choice. I really like that song. And it really captures the messaging and the essence of the film. And I was listening to the song as the credits were rolling, wiping away tears, because this is a tearjerker. Go into this one with some tissues. It really made me feel something. And I think at the end of the day, regardless of what you say about this film, if it makes you feel something, I think it's done its job. If you go into this one expecting to see the Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 gang doing their thing, you'll probably be a little bit disappointed. This is a Jessie and Bullseye film, as well as the new characters that are introduced. Buzz and Woody are integral to the subplot that culminates into the main plot at the end, but do go into this film knowing that the main characters from the prior films like Ham, Rexy, Mr. Potato Head, probably aren't going to be used as much as you would like them to. I think I can safely say as well that this is one of Pixar's best films during the 2020s, that and Inside Out. And I'd be really interested to find out what parents' opinions and perspectives are, especially with the commentary surrounding this film with the technology used for children. I'd really love to hear that. So if you are a parent and you are watching this film, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. After that, I saw The Death of Robin Hood. I've seen a lot of Hugh Jackman recently, and I can safely say that I think that this is his best performance to date for me personally. Really enjoyed seeing the scenery. They really showcased the countryside that this film was shot in incredibly well. There is not a single modern building in this film, as it is set in 1200 AD, I believe. Don't quote me on that. It did feel like I was really there at times, and I think that it does a great job with that. Something I also really appreciated that I've written in my notes here is how grounded it is with its violence and world. I do wish there was more action though, and it's because the action that was showcased at the start of the film was so good. Unfortunately though, for me, after that, it did get a little stale at times. I'm not gonna lie. I understand that this is a very character-driven film, and it is about, as the name implies, the death of Robin Hood. But I just wish there was a little more. Not so much that it becomes an action film, but just a little more, because you got that nice taste at the start of the film with it. And then after that, it's very stagnant with its characters. And whilst I enjoyed the dialogue that was given to them and the way that the characters were acted out, I kept thinking to myself, man, I wish there was a couple more scenes with Robin Hood doing his thing. Bill Skarsgård is in this film. What? I only found out from the credits when I saw them. He plays Little John. When I saw him, he looks so unrecognizable. But now I look back at it and think in my head what Little John looked like in the film. I can see it, but it sounds nothing like him. And I really wish Little John was in the film more than what he is. I think that they really underutilized him. And I wanted him more in the film because Bill Skarsgård does such a fantastic job. I understand completely why he's not in the film. It makes sense thematically and with the story, but I do wish there was more with him. Overall, this is a really solid film. I really liked it, but I can totally see a lot of people not enjoying this because they go into it expecting a Hugh Jackman action film, whereas this is a very character-driven story. After that, I saw Leviticus. Let me start off by saying the plot to this film is about two young men who are in love with one another in this small rural Australian town that is very religious. I thought the premise was very interesting with them being found out and having this ceremony done on them that basically summons a demon that they can only see, but the demon looks like the thing that they most desire. However, it didn't deliver all the time for me. I didn't like the main characters at all. They were just such, for lack of a better word, assholes the whole time, especially to each other. And they got over the problems that they had with one another way too quickly for my liking. I found it difficult as well to follow the main character and how they handled the demon and the situations they were put in. They just kept putting themselves into the same situation that they were in the last time with the demon over and over again, and they kept getting attacked the same way, and they didn't try anything new or try to adapt to the demon, even though another character in the film told them how to stop the demon from coming after them. They have to stay around people, and they kept putting themselves in the situations where they're alone. And I just found that incredibly frustrating to watch because they just got to a point with the film where it felt like they were doing it just so they could get a jump scare or just so they could get a scary scene happening. And it really took me out of the film in those moments, unfortunately. I'm not sure I call this a horror film either. I didn't find anything remotely scary, and the scares that were there were incredibly predictable that I just was expecting them. And then when they did happen, I was like, oh, there it is. I thought that despite some really awkward dialogue, the main cast did a great job. These are two young up-and-coming Aussie actors, and I hope that with the success that this film is bringing, that they do get a lot of more work. Having the main character's name be Naim, though, not a great choice. I know it's spelled N-A-I-M, and it has some religious ties or something like that, I believe. But whenever a character would be shouting out his name, it really took me out of the film as well and made me go, is his name actually Naim? Or are they saying Nate? Or are they saying something else? But no, his name is actually Naim. And so whenever someone is saying name, I just could not think. It felt like they had a placeholder name in the script that they just completely forgot to add an actual name in. And so they just went along with the name. And even now, me saying name sounds weird. That's how it sounded in the film. And it just unfortunately did take me out of the film as well in that regard. I absolutely understand what the symbolism was with the demon and why the main characters were doing the things that they were, but it just didn't translate well for me. And it just, when executed, just annoyed me, unfortunately, because I feel like if they put them in situations where they couldn't avoid the demon, I would be more like, okay, that makes sense. But there was so many moments where they could have avoided the demon very easily, and they just didn't. They just made a dumb decision. And it sort of felt like an 80s horror film where they just put themselves in a position of like going away by themselves, and you want to scream at the film going, no, don't do that. That's how I felt a lot of the times with this film, unfortunately. Something I really liked in this film was the use of Frank Ocean's self-control from the final scene of the film into the credits. I thought that was such a beautiful use of Frank Ocean's music and really summarizes the whole film and these two characters' relationship with one another incredibly well. After hearing and seeing all of these 10 out of 10 reviews that I've seen online with this film, I guess I did do a bit of disservice to myself and went into it with high expectations, and unfortunately I was a little disappointed. It's not a bad film, don't get me wrong, it is not a bad film. It is shot well, it's acted well, some of the dialogue's a little awkward as mentioned before, but for the most part it's really good. Other than the moments where the characters, in my opinion, are really stupid and put themselves in dumb situations with the demon. But I would really love to hear from someone in the queer community, their opinion on it and how it resonated with them, as it might change my perspective on the film. But as a perspective that I got from watching it, I think it's just an okay film. If I had to rate it out of 10, I don't like rating things numerically like this, but if I had to, it would not be a 10 out of 10 like people are giving it, but it would more likely be towards a 6 out of 10 for me, I think, personally. Let me know in the comments if you have seen it. I would love to hear your opinion on it. What a mixed bag of films for this month. It made it more interesting for me though, reviewing them, and I really appreciated that. Sorry if it sounds like I'm rambling a lot in this video and it's not so scripted. I did have to rush this one because I am going away. I'm going to London for 3 weeks, so I probably won't be seeing many films this coming month either, so next month's video might be very short. I know the Odyssey is coming out, which I'm seeing in BFI IMAX. I'm super excited for that. But other than that though, I don't think I'm seeing much else. So it might be just a single review for next month, but who knows? Thank you so much for watching as always. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you for next month with the Odyssey. I can't wait. I'll see you then, guys.